Hi there. Welcome. This is going to be the first game I'm ever going to be playing. So, let's, let's play. Unvoiced. Okay. On a blindingly bright day, on that very day of winter. Okay. 2001. Okay, well, from the July. Gosh dang, I didn't get to read that. Okay. Spring 1996, Setsumi. True, I wasn't very healthy ever since I was a child. Even so, I attended elementary school like all the others, and during summer breaks, I often played until I was early tamed. June, shortly after my entry into middle school. The day after I'd ordered a swimsuit for use the next month. My first hospitalization. I don't even know how to say that. On a day just before the first semester midterms, on a day when the first drops of rain were so cruelly cold, falling from amidst the pure white of the overcast sky. Oh my gosh, that's all. Holy crap, I'm gonna have to turn this down. It's better. And, okay. Falling from the amidst the pure white of the overcast sky. Of course, the first time it happened, all my classmates came to visit me almost every day. And when I was released, they even came to my house on weekends to play. But that was only the first time around. Autumn into winter, winter into spring, a vicious cycle. Hospitalization, release, clinics, and hospitalization again. And before I knew it, even the classmates I once called friends turned into acquaintances, and then into strangers. As if every changing of seasons, it was being erased from their collective memory. It seems that to all those normal people, my very existence is all an unpleasant fact. And so, it looks like I've been erased. I spent so many seasons, so many white overcast skies, without the want or need to converse with anybody. For that matter, my English textbook never changed from that of a first-year middle school student before the first two midterms. That is where my time seems to come to an end. Stage Nana, Volume 20. Okay. Early summer 2004, Atomic. 8 years later, early summer. Okay, I just read that. Summer, flowing sweat. The gigantic electronic scoreboard and the driver's license examination faculty. Dang it. I can't talk today. Lit up all at once. My eyes and everyone else's looked at our respective numbers. 237. 237. Okay. And of some 8 columns of lit text, sure enough, my examination number was shining in the midst. Clickety-clack. Okay. A nearly empty train car, perhaps thanks to the beautiful afternoon. Almost alone in that train car, it was heading back home from the examination hall. My left hand held a new traffic regulations handbook. In my breast pocket held my brand new driver's license. So now I've got a license as well. I mattered somewhat happily, but there was no strong feelings behind it. I never particularly wanted to drive a car. I never particularly had any motive for it. I was just that my colleges and Technical Institute both recommend that I at least get a driver's license. That night, when I told my parents that I'd gotten my license, they merely replied when an "I see." And when I asked if I could borrow the car just for a test run, they instantly and curtly said just one thing: no. While I didn't really want to drive the car or anything, the response was all too expected. Those were my parents for you. The next day, I awoke with chest pain and went to the hospital. Sickness and I generally had nothing to do with each other, which is why I found the ER waiting room to be utterly boring. And just when I thought they were through examining me, they ordered an X-ray and some blood tests, then they left. And again, I was left waiting for a long time. I already polished off 3 volumes of Shonen Jump and was just about to start on the 4th when they admitted me to the hospital right then and there. And it seemed that my new license, which still lay snugly in my breast pocket, would have to wait a long time for its turn to come. Man. First time I saw him in 2004. Right around when the all too noisy Kaikads had finally gone silent, I once again found myself in the hospital as per usual. Of course, it wasn't as if I had been there the entire time. I came and went, a futile cycle. My first surgery was a month before. After that, I started doing the 5-minute commute too, and from the hospital by milked. And from then on, I was hospitalized and discharged, ordered to clinic, and hospitalized again and again and again. While I still had no clue what PET or IRESA stood for, and in no time at all, several months has already passed. As my appetite decreased, my medications increased. I could feel my own physical strength atrophying away. I kept imaging that my legs were getting thinner, but the needle of the weight scale rudely informed me, it's not just your imagination. And yet I kept looking at myself with detached interest, as if it were happening to somebody else entirely, as if I were looking at a screen on TV or the like. My mind could not grasp what had so suddenly happened to my body. Nothing within me was telling me that this was real at all. And that's why, even though it was all happening to me, I kept looking on as if it were happening to someone far away. A day of winter, around when the Christmas trees had vanished from the streets. I was discharged home as a kind of year's end treat. It seemed like an exercise in total transcendence, but still, it made me slightly happy. I traveled back to a home I had not seen in a long time in the midst of a freezing rain. Strangely enough, my entire family was there. My parents, who had never so much as talked to me, came out to meet me with a terribly stilt smiles. And my little sister, with whom I had never had a pleasant word, had made my favorite cream stew and fried shrimp just for me. They made me sit at the table. They peeled tangerines for me. They were cruelly kind. It was an impressive display. At this point, a little thought occurred to me about my new driver's license, which was still stuffed away in my pocket. That perhaps things would end for the license without it ever having known any use. And surrounded by a trio of stilted, strange smiles, I kept that thought as if it were someone else's business, with dispassion, ambiguity, and total disinterest. January 2005. A new year began and I returned to the hospital. But on this day, instead of my usual 4F room, I ended up in the convenience room of sorts. They took me there. And then my father and the doctors had a little talk. I joined in. Well, they talked to me. So this was their so-called announcement. They said it in a terribly roundabout fashion, but they told me that I was going to die. Oh my God. I see. That was my only reply. I had no other words. It was the only thing that left my mouth from the beginning to end. And the doctor's ballpoint pens flew across paper as if in response to my words. Those were probably hospice enrollment protocols, businesslike to the last. My father was the same. So it's this simple. Was the only real thought I had. That day, I was transferred from 4F to 7F, from a 6-person room to a private room. It was a little different from the other wards. This 7F. First of all, the floors were sparkling clean, and second of all, the ceiling was higher than I'd ever seen. The rooms were very nice, and had large windows from which the warm daylight streamed in as if by design. But the windows only opened a little. I tested them out, and my head would just barely fit out of one. The color of my ID bracelet had changed as well. The bracelet that I had worn ever since the first hospitalization, the one that had my name and blood type recorded on it. Its color had now changed from blue to white. A high ceiling, a white vinyl bracelet, a window that would not open more than 15 centimeters. The TV programs celebrating the new year were still playing when I transferred this to this 7F. And it was at the dawn of that very year and that I met her for the first time. Narcissu. Wait, that was an intro? Okay. Winter 2005. 7F. Okay. There was this place kind of like a lounge at one side of the corridor across from the nurse's station. This deserted place had a few couches and chairs as well as a large TV. Stupid programs commemorating the new year were still being broadcast on that 28-inch screen. Dang, I can't fucking talk, man. And there was a girl who looked absolutely bored watching that absolutely boring TV. Short, in pink pajamas, a white bracelet on her wrist, just like mine. impressively long hair that almost reached down to her hips. Hey, do you find that interesting? There was no deep purpose in the asking. Simply, I had nothing else to do, so I started talking to her. Not really. Was her only reply to me. She didn't turn to face me at all. And she kept looking on with boredom at the TV as if I didn't even exist. Then don't watch it. Even as I thought this, I sat down in a chair next to her. And side by side, we watched TV. Nothing else to do, nothing we could do. So we sat there silently and watched TV. New Year's celebration programs as per usual, a useless array of comedians and oddities. And every so often, the MC's stupid, shrill laughter, resoundingly dryly in this white, sun-drenched lounge. Say, tell me. The girl suddenly started talking to me, but her eyes were as always glued to the TV screen. How many times is it for you now? What do you mean by that? How many times have you come here to 7F? Sorry, I have no clue what you're talking about. I see, so it's your first time then. So she'd seen my confusion about her question and come to the right conclusion. Then since there's no one else around, and since it's my duty, there's this rule. Nodding slightly, she explained that the rule was that someone here 7F should tell newcomers the truth. I knew nothing. I understood even less. And as if I did not even exist, she slowly started her speech, then listened closely. Her words, spoken methodically. Dang it, I can't speak. Crap. One by one, were a little different from all the ones I'd heard from the doctors about this place. In their business-like crisp syntaxes, they told me this is a place where no one waits for medical advances. This is a place where one heals one's heart, and perhaps they might have been correct in a general sense. But according to the girl, that was just a party line. The truth was that this 7F was the only place in the hospital where medical treatments did not take place. This was just a place where you waited for your life to come to an end. Those were her words to me. I thought so as well. I felt it even before she'd spoken. See, this is my second time. Second time doing what? Coming here. And then she explained to me that nobody on 7F stayed here from initial hospitalization all the way until death. While there was zero possibility of being cured, you were sent home if your condition was stable. But if it worsened again, you would be returned here. That cycle ended only in death. Whether it was at home or here on 7F, always one of the two, you were going to die, no way to escape it, it seemed. And with that meaning in her every word, she informed me that this was her second time up here. I'm only going to say this once, so listen closely now. She continued speaking, all all the while staring at the blank TV screen. This wasn't idle chit-chat about when lights out was, or where the kitchen was, or anything like that. This was something completely different. The third time you are discharged home, resign yourself. There won't be a fourth time. You will never go home again. If you ever want to escape, head toward the B station, not the A station. Eat nothing. That is the simplest shortcut. You leave the smallest burden on your family that way. It was as if she was packed to the brim with matters like those. This was probably an oral tradition, relevant only to those who were going to die, and kept by those who came here for that purpose. So is this the duty that you were talking about? Yes, that's right. So do you remember to perform it for a newcomer yourself someday? Okay. With those words, she slowly stood up. She slowly tossed her long hair, and it grazed my nose. I have to go get my temperature measured, so... Then she turned her back and started walking down the corridor. Now completely deserted, save for me. The lounge had only the laughter from the TV and the white flowers by the windowsill. In the end, she didn't even look at me once. Gosh dang, I can't read. Okay, a few days later. New Year's celebrations were over, and the middle and high school students were beginning a new term. And just as ever, she and I sat in this lounge, staring blankly at the TV. This is boring. So it is. So he said, but both of us kept our eyes on the screen. Hey, is this place always this way? I don't understand what you're getting at. I'm getting at how it's always deserted. Other than the nurses, doctors, and help staff, and other than her, I've not seen a single person. Gosh dang it, Did everybody go home for the New Year or something? Do you really want to know? Well, I didn't mean... Then I won't tell you. We won't disinterestingly toss back and forth this exchange that could not even be called a conversation. The slight breeze coming from the window that would not open more than 15 centimeters. From time to time, her hair would sway, and as if in agreement, the flowers at the windowsill would too. This was how we killed time day after day, staring at that boring good no TV. Boring good for nothing TV. What the heck happened to the music? I accidentally pressed M and there was no music. The music just like cut off. Click, click, click. Oh, here the two of you are. An elderly nurse said as she rushed toward us. From what I'd seen of the nurse's station, she was apparently the charge nurse of 7F. Well, Miss Satsumi, any fever? I'm fine, no fever. Satsumi? So that was her name. You really shouldn't be moving around like this. Do you understand? Everyone's worried about you. Well, whatever. Come now. What kind of answer is that? Oh, children these days. The nurse continued to scold and henpeck for some while longer. And the girl named Satsumi, just pretended not to notice it at all. She simply stared straight forward at the boring TV, paying that fussy nurse as little heed as she could. I'll be coming later to draw some blood, okay? With those words, the charge nurse went back to the nurse's station. Hey, well, mind if I call you Satsumi? I asked this as I started dang it. I just said started instead of stared. Stared at her white vinyl ID bracelet and at the blood type and the name written therein. Is something the matter, Satsumi? Why aren't you calling me that? Huh? You're younger than me. Why am I younger than you? Nothing. That's just what I thought, is all. It wasn't that I was offended that she called me younger than her. It was just that no matter how I looked at it, I thought I was 5-6 years older than she was. That's why I took out my driver's license from my breast pocket and handed it directly to her. See? I may not seem it, but I'm 20. So you're younger after all. She only took a glance at my license before handing it back to me. I don't really get what you're saying. It doesn't really matter. I'm just a little older than you are. That's all. She murmured as expressionlessly as ever. Her eyes were fixed on that boring TV, alright, but it also felt as if she was gazing at something far away. After they'd taken my AM vital signs, I snuck past the nurses and boarded the elevator. When I got to IF, I walked out the outpatient clinic doors and walked outside of the hospital. My goal was the place that I'd been told about not long ago, the faraway B station, not the nearby A station. It wasn't that I wanted to escape or anything. At 7F, or at home, none of us died anywhere else. That's what I'd been told. And this B station, which this girl named Satsumi had apparently been to many times. That's why, at least just once, I wanted to see this place with my own eyes. It's not as if we're going to be a guard on duty. Even so, we're inhabitants of 7F, different from other impatients, and thinking of vague maybes. So early in the morning, I headed toward that station. My legs settled into a lazy gait. Dang it. Okay. As I glanced sidelong at the people commuting to school or work. After about 25 minutes of this, I arrived in front of the station. Roughly 4 bus stops away when I calculated out. Wow, there are a lot of people here. Was my first impression of the B station. I stood out a bit because I was in pajamas, but I felt that if I could just buy a subway ticket, I'd be able to go anywhere, no question about it. I still had no idea why I had been told to go to the B station, not the A station. But it looked as if it would be easy to escape, if I really wanted to. She must have come here many times herself, so why did she remain on 7F right now? The station in the early morning. I stood there thinking these thoughts as I watched the people rapidly passing me by. That night, after lights out, bored of manga and unable to sleep, I wandered through the hospital alone. Certainly, it wasn't supposed to be allowed after lights out, but we of 7F had a peculiar kind of liberty. So in the presence of no light, in the pitch-black stillness of the lounge, that was where I found her. I didn't see any... Okay, I am 30 minutes in, and I did not see any avatar. Or sprite, or whatever you call it. Hey, have you been looking outside today? Yeah. The darkened interior, she did answer me, but she continued to stare out the window as if she had not. I immediately launched into what had happened today. Oh, by the way, I went out to the station today. The B station, just as you taught me. I see. But her response did not change. I thought that she'd react with something because she'd been there before too. But now that I thought about it, did the fact that she was here mean that she had no intention of escaping in the first place? I'm going to be going home soon. What? She opened her mouth abruptly and spoke as if she'd seen right through me. But next time will be the third time, so we may not see each other again. Yeah, I guess. Probably what she was talking about was a temporary discharge from the hospital. She told me that nobody was discharged from 7F more than 3 times. Unlike the elderly, given the progress of our diseases, this meant all the more to young people like us. Her, we may not see each other again, was filled with that kind of meaning. Oh, which one have you decided on? Decided on? Where you're going to die. When that word death came up so abruptly, I was at a total loss for words. I don't know. Haven't thought about it yet. I see. It's just your first time after all. She murmured, looking desolate. Certainly, it wasn't as if I was going to exist here forever. Just like everyone else, it would be admitted and discharged, slowly grow weak, and someday I would have to choose in the end, here on 7F. Or at home, surrounded by those fake smiles. I don't want to die at home, but I don't want to die here either. Then what will you do? I guess the only thing is to go somewhere while I still have the strength to. Somewhere? You can't be. This girl who was staying here on 7F when she could have escaped any time she wanted. When I thought of that, do you have any other place to go? Do you want to stop me? What? Or do you want to come with me? Well, no, that wasn't what I was thinking about. Then don't ask. She was staring out the window as she spoke, dispassionate, did not looking at me once, the same as ever. But then, and just then, her usual expressionless face looked so very sad to me. I was a newcomer to 7F, just recently taught that the third discharge was the last. And she was a girl who soon was to be discharged for the second time. I still did not feel anything real about what was happening to me. But would I, too, come to wear such a face someday? The rain at morning twilight. Sometimes sleet, sometimes snow, always coming down. And I was sitting there watching TV in my usual place. Suddenly enough, felt as devoid of people as it always had. Anything interesting? No, completely boring. Always boring. She walked to my side, saying no more. She sat down in a chair next to me, and that was how we began watching TV on this very day as well. She was probably in the same boat as me. Nothing else to do, nothing we could do. Oh, I had never seen her respond to the TV before. Is something the matter? Not really. Those were her usual words, but her response was anything but unusual. And I looked at the screen, interested in anything that could move her so. There were nature scenes being displayed on TV, beautiful hills and dells burgeoning with trees and flowers, and a vast spread of white flowers in the midst. I remember those flowers from somewhere. Oh, pretty. They looked very similar to the white flowers that decorated the windowsills. Could those be the same flowers? You know, the same as over there. Those over there. Dang, I can't talk today. Crap. I pointed to the flowers by the window as I said this. No. Huh? Really? They're of the same variety, but they're not strictly the same. She glanced at the flowers by the window for a second, and then went back to gazing at the TV. She told me that they were different, but I couldn't see the distinction between the two, and it meant nothing to me whether the flowers were the same or different. But what did mean something was the girl who usually never said a word more than she needed to. She was conversing in rare form today, which was why I decided to follow along. Did you happen to know a lot about them? Flowers, that is? Not really. Really? But I don't see the difference. The flowers on the screen, and the flowers in the vase to her side. I continued to talk as I stared vacantly at the two. Look, look. There are these orchids or lilies? Look, are these orchids or lilies? Okay, I was trying to say. See? They're pure white, right? I had no interest, yet I kept trying to make conversation. But she resumed her silence soon enough, and with her usual lack of expression, she continued staring at the boring TV screen. And just when I turned back to the TV, realizing to the fact that I'd get nothing more out of her. Narcissus. What? Those are Narcissus? Those are Narcissus? Oh my gosh, there's actually a sprite! As she answered. She turned to face me for the first time. Her hip-length hair swaying, she pointed at the TV screen and looked at me. The ID bracelet on her wrist was white. Her skin was white, just like the flowers on screen. And I swore I could see a tiny smile on that face that was looking at me for the first time. That girl looks so cute. Wait, what? That was chapter 1? Well, I really like to play more. Well, What about we play one more chapter? Like, let's play one more chapter. A few days later, plunging further into the depths of winter, during this time that the rest of the world called exam period, we were sitting watching TV, the same as ever. This is boring. So it is. This exchange that could not even be called a conversation. We spent all our days in this fashion, killing time without meaning or purpose. Speaking of which, when is it for you? Today? I see, so it's today. That word, that today, was the temporary discharge that she'd alluded to earlier. So, we may not see each other again. Yeah, I guess that's true. Because even if she were to be remitted to 7F, that would be her last time. And in that time, I'd probably be discharged and remitted myself. It didn't seem likely that things could be timed so that we could see each other again. Have you decided yet about where I'm going to die? Yeah. No, not yet. I see. She nodded somewhat sadly, the expression of someone being discharged for the second time. I still felt nothing about the situation, and I hadn't heard from the doctors about my first discharge. Come to think of it, I wondered if she finally decided what her own answer to the dilemma would be. Click, click, click. Satsumi, everything's set. A lady came up to us with these words. This was probably her mother. She nodded slightly at me. I did not rise. We'll be leaving soon, but are you all ready? Yeah. Well, have a nice day, sir. She nodded slightly at me again and then turned to leave this place. She did stretch out her hand toward that girl who was likely her daughter. But the girl did not move at all. She stayed rooted in her chair even after her mother had grabbed her hand. What's wrong, Satsumi? It hurts a little. What? Where? Your chest? Your abdomen? My chest. Stay right there. Stay right here. I'll call the doctors right away. Click, click, click. She took off and visitor used slippers in a sprint toward the nurse's station. There were but two things left in this place, her and me, both in chairs. I did not know a thing about her disease or its status. The only things I knew were courtesy of her white ID bracelet. Her name was Satsumi and her blood type was O. But we were inhabitants of 7F, and she was older than me, if just by a little. Hey, do you want to lie down over there until the doctors come? I pointed at the corner of the lounge at the couch, at something that I had never seen used. It'll support your back, after all. Doesn't it matter? I'm fine now. Saying those words and nothing more, she stood up quickly. Hey, wait! Don't do anything foolish. but she was already halfway down the corridor before I could finish the sentence. Nightfall. After lights out. Bored of reading manga as usual, I wandered through the darkened hospital. The usual lounge, now pitch dark from the absent light. That was where I found her. Hey, so you're still here? Yeah. What's up? Not feeling well again? Not really, was all she said as she stared at the window. So her discharge had been postponed after all. No one knew when the next chance would come, but it would probably be weeks from now, not days. Hey, could it be that you feigned illness today? I can't talk. Gosh dang it. Okay. No, that probably wasn't the right way to put it. See? You couldn't say that we weren't sick all the time. What I'm saying is, you didn't want to leave the hospital, did you? I don't know what you're talking about. Because there's no afterwards for you now. But there was no answer to my question in her silence. She had asked me so many times before about where I wanted to die. It had always been that I didn't know yet, and that she didn't want to die at home or here on 7F. So you have no other place to go after all? And what of it? No, nothing. This familiar lounge flooded in darkness. Her familiar stance, looking out the window without so much as acknowledge. Dang it, I can't talk. Crap. Why am I not? Okay. Acknowledging my existence. This place we called a hospital, and its extinguished lights in spite of the fact that it was only 11 p.m. or so. This was the tangent point between what was normal and what was not. On top of that, we were inhabitants of 7F, bereft of any choice save one, death on 7F or death at home. The outside world that she was staring from the pitch black hate of 7F, the normal world. The buildings and homes were still radiant with light, and the street overflowed with people going home. And although my awareness of it was still vague, I was already an inhabitant of 7F, already an abnormal existence. There was no longer any way for me to go back to that other world. Was there now. My time is at a standstill. I spent so many reasons, so many white overcast skies, without the want or need to converse with anybody. At first, I would look down at the healthy kids going to school in the first and dang it, where did I get first from? And those people walking back and forth on the streets. And when I got tired of that, I always watched TV. Nothing else to do. Nothing else I could do. Even when there was snow outside the window, it was always bright and sunny inside the TV screen. A dream world stretching out before my eyes without heat, without cold, without pain. I sought comfort from my imagination, and so I amassed a huge knowledge base. Meaningless trivia upon meaningless trivia over and over. And before I knew it, nothing that appeared on TV seemed real anymore. And in quick succession, it also happened to books, games, and then my family. Finally, I was unable to view myself as anything real, as if I was staring at scenes of another person's life. That's why I was not surprised even when they transferred me to 7F. If I but closed my eyes, the world would always vanish. So I thought I'd be fine, and I did as I thought. And soon enough, my second discharge from the hospital. By the time of my next admission, I'd probably be too weak to stand myself.
Love you, son.
I love you too.
Still playing the game.
I'd be too weak to stand myself. I found my own self, the one who couldn't do anything, even though she knew this to be pitbull. I found my own self, the one who had no destination, to be ridiculous. My time at a standstill, my heart at a standstill, my chest standing still with huge scars. I'd lived for 22 years now, and I found myself utterly helpless. January 19, 2005, 7F. Oh, look at that. I could just now press space. A few days after that, the overhanging clouds had cleared up, and an endless winter sky was in their place. Oddly enough, my father had come to visit, a difficult expression on his face the entire time. But he was saying something or other about my insurance. And at that time, his eyes were not unhappy at all. I have to talk to the doctors for a bit. Saying this, my father strode down the corridor toward that dim conference room where this had all begun, or so it seemed. My hospital room was now empty. Having nothing to do now, I reached for the weekly magazines that they bought at the stands for me, and accompanying them, just as ever, there were fruits and drinks as well as get-well gifts. And to one side of the basket that the fruits were piled in, right in front of the melons that I so hated. What I saw was a set of car keys. The keys shone silver. These were the keys to my father's pride and joy, that cowpay that he'd swayed over from the upholstery on outwards. The cow that I'd asked to borrow a long time ago, and I'd been told no without a single second's delay. And my still unused driver's license in the breast pocket of my pajamas. Gosh dang it. Even after it had lost its chances for use that day, it remained with me waiting, as if that were its proof of life. Click. In silence, I grabbed the keys. It happened as if on impulse. I had no idea what my motives were either. I just seized them without a second thought. as if I was looking at a scene on TV. And the few days' worth of meds that had been dispensed, I stuffed those into a bag and I headed down the corridor. I snuck past the nurse's station and quickly strode toward the elevators, a bag in my right hand, the keys in my left, the long-neglected driver's license in my breast pocket. In front of the lounge, and the next thing I saw was the girl sitting there watching TV as per usual, staring blankly and boredly at that screen, sitting on a little foldable chair. Hey, that show any good? Does it look that way to you? No, not at all. The all too expected exchange. Her eyes looked as far away as they always had. Well then, shall we go together? What? I continued talking as I showed her the keys in my hand. See, I don't want it to be at home. And I don't want it to be on 7F either. Well then, shall we go together? Okay. With that, she stood up from her chair. Her hair swayed with her and grazed the tip of my nose. And then she, too, stuffed a few days' worth of meds in a bag. And we made to leave 7F together. I switched off that boring TV, and the grating laughter of the MC was forever obliterated. Both of us in pajamas boarded the elevator, heading down from this top floor down to IF. At IF, we headed not for the ER entrance, but for the outpatient clinic's entrance. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The cloud winter air struck away at our faces, all the more strong in a wide open space like the parking lot. The two of us wandered around the spacious field, looking about ourselves with unease. And after a little while, we came across my father's car. The silver coupe, my father's pride and joy, impeccably maintained. I immediately inserted the key and opened the door. Click! Go ahead, get in. Very well. Thud. I sank into the driver's seat. She was in the passenger seat, but she was so short that I'd even have a hard time seeing the road. Turned the key into ignition and stepped lightly on the accelerator, just as I'd learned during training. Reassuring engine noises filtered into the cabin. I released the handbrake and then applied the clutch. Now we could go anywhere. That was our plan. Alright, let's go. Okay. She nodded slightly. Instead of replying, I shifted into second gear. And the car accelerated smoothly. Unused to the clutch and swerving slightly, I advanced slowly. You're swerving. Yeah, it's my first time in a car. Well, it's the first time since I got my license I've driven a car. I see. The exit to the parking lot was now in view, and the largest road beyond it without traffic lights. I turned onto it. Beep beep. The sound of honking car horns. Those were directed at me as I cut into the road. The silver cow complained but did not stop as I worked the unfamiliar clutch, the stiff gearbox. I must really have rubbed the other drivers the wrong way, as the honking of horns did not seem likely to cease. But I just continued to drive without caring much. None of it quite seemed real at all. Hey, what is it? Are you scared? Do you want me to be? No, not really. Still, before noon, the high-flying sun, the skies of January above and beyond the windshield, skies so blue that they seemed almost in morning. We had no destination. On that cold day, with an alien clutch and a swerving car. On that day, when we drove onto the highway in our pajamas. On that very day of winter. January 19,000. Around when that blazing high sun had changed into a dusky orange. We were continuing to drive, just driving in any direction at random, and in a place that I did not recognize. We're stopping for a bit, okay? I finally brought the car to a halt. A roadside somewhere far away from civilization, no traffic anywhere to be seen, lonely. Having stopped the car in this nameless place, I started inspecting around the cabin. If there was anything useful here, we just run off without any preparation at all, but there was something troubling leaping out at me. With that on my mind, I first scoured the dashboard. There's nothing here at all. A couple hundred yen cluttered around the gear stick, a few manga volumes, and a cheap disposable camera. It wasn't as if we had a destination, but the onboard GPS navigation system looked broken. And I only had about 8,000 yen on me. That was all the money I had lying around when I up and left. So combined with the pocket change I found, I only had 9,000 yen or so. Of course, I hadn't really expected that there'd be anything in the car anyway. But this lack of money presented a problem. It wouldn't be possible for us to find lodging on this budget. And it didn't seem likely that this girl would have any money on her either. Is something the matter? You don't really say it that way. No, it's nothing. Whatever. I'd have expected this from the beginning. It wasn't as if I thought this through enough to have things like a plan or a schedule. I just wanted to get out, right then and there. I did not want to stay where I was. Underneath the curtain of twilight, I started up the silver cup again. Hey, are you hungry? I asked her as I drove along. Come to think of it, she hadn't eaten anything since morning. Want to stop at a convenience store or something? No. Hey, don't be like that. And the food's much better than anything up at 7F. She did not respond to me. Instead, she looked straight down at the pink pajamas she was wearing. Oh yeah, that's right. I looked down at my own clothing. Sure enough, in these pajamas, we'd be conspicuous no matter where we went. Not that we weren't suspicious right now. In any case, we'd have to do something about them. And having made my decision, I steered back towards civilization. After a little more driving, we'd arrived in a place whose name I didn't know. Probably somewhere close to a rail station. Certainly enough, people around for it to be the case. Dang it, I can't talk today, crap. There's gotta be one around here somewhere. I looked around anxiously as I drove, my back pitched a little forward, not touching the seat. Ah, there one is. At last, a coin laundromat. It looked pretty run down from the outside, on the first floor of a small forlorn building. This was as good a place as any. I stopped the car not far from the entrance to this place. Alright, I'll be back in a second. Thud. Leaving her and her confused face in the car, I locked into the laundromat. My nose was filled with the smell of bleach and detergent detergent. Okay. Sorry, I keep getting those words confused and I say it wrong. The moment the automatic doors opened, the exterior of the laundromat had told no lie. The washers and dryers were old and run down as well. There's nobody here. The empty laundromat swallowed whole my murmured words. Okay. Only a single dryer was in operation, making it characteristic humming noises. I immediately walked to that machine and checked its timer. It looked like it would operate for 30 minutes on 200 yen, and only 5 minutes had elapsed so far. Whoever it was had probably gone elsewhere to kill some time. Ruminating over this, I looked around just one more time to reassure myself that no one was around. Then, satisfied that I was all alone, I put my hand on the door handle of that drying machine, and I abruptly open it. I'm not really going to say that the sound effect or something, do the sound effect or something, because it's already doing it. Its door opened during operation. The dryer spun down to a forced halt. I pulled out a clump of half-dry clothing, ignoring the heat and the humidity. And after looking around once more to make sure no one was around, I walked from it just like that. Click, done. Oh. She sounded slightly surprised when she saw my arms full of clothing. But I threw the clothes in the back seat without a word. Alright, let's go. I looked back at the bundle of clothes with the steering wheel in one hand. Gaudy looking sweaters and jeans and almost nothing else, all in pretty big sizes at that. all still wet, but the car's heating would dry them out soon. Change into whatever you like later. She didn't react much to those words either. She just looked back at the pile of clothes. Look, we had no choice. I know. Well, obviously, it wasn't as if I liked doing this kind of thing. And it wasn't as if there was anything I was saving that money for. It was just that given the amount we had, it would be very difficult to buy new clothes. After I'd driven for a bit, around when the moon shone full above us, I stopped the car next to some public park, probably a place for children to play, tucked away in the corner of the residential area. And there, I started looking through the clothes I'd stolen some time back. They were mostly dry by now, thanks to the heating in the car. All men's clothing, after all. I'd inspected the heap once before, a veritable mountain of gaudy jeans and sweaters. Probably someone around my age, around the same size, looked like. And sitting in the driver's seat of the car, I changed into a pair of jeans and a sweater. Hey, you should get changed too. They're all too big. Then will you go on wearing pajamas forever? Fine, she answered, reluctant. Dang it, just get those words. Grab some jeans and other clothes and open the door. Hey, where are you going? To get changed. And just like that, she started walking to the park's bathroom. Good. Hey, that was fast. She'd come back in short order. The pink pajamas that she'd been wearing in her hands, a white shirt and a pair of jeans on her body. Well, that turned out fairly well. No answer I'd expected thence, but everything was too big and baggy on her. The jeans were too long and rolled far up at the cuffs, and the sleeves of the shirt were much the same way. The pajamas were better. Come now, don't say that. It was a little warmer this way, at least. She made an only slightly dissatisfied face at my words. Oh, is that? Were you hoping for more girlish clothes? Not really. The same response as ever. I was sure that she was unhappy with her baggy shirt, but she soon returned to her usual lack of expression. Swish. It had begun to rain all of a sudden. A freezing rain falling from the frigid January sky as if it had forgotten how to stop. The countless raindrops spattering on the windshield and obscuring the view from the inside. And when each grew too large for surface tension to hold it up, a few of them gathered, slid down, became rivers. And these rivers swallowed up raindrops underneath them and ran to the bottom. I stared emptily at the rain from inside. A parking lot somewhere, a desolate place in the middle of the mountains. Having finished shopping at the convenience store, we were spending the night here. The dinner menu: 2 rice balls, 50 milliliter. Gosh dang it! I can't speak right now. Bacardi sweat. No, it's sweat. Okay, half a bag of potato chips. Okay. It's been a long time since we last did anything like this. Yeah. She murmured with the convenience store rice ball in one hand. It wasn't anything of wonderful quality, but it was far better than anything served up in 7F. And when we were both going after the potato chips, she suddenly stopped reaching for it. Is something the matter? Not really. But her eyes were turned past the windshield glazed by the rain, at a few white flowers on the roadside, at some flowers soaked by rain. It didn't know if someone had planted them or if they were wild, but I remembered something about them. There were Narcissu. Those are Narcissus. Alright, Narcissus. While I didn't know flower names all that well, I'd at least heard of Narcissus before. To me, not really. And this girl who seldom spoke a single word was actually talking about something. And so I followed along. And speaking of which, are these not exactly the real deal as well? Yeah, something like that. So they must be pretty rare then. Not really. You can find them anywhere. Anywhere? And where exactly? It wasn't as if I had any deep purpose in asking. It was just that I was making conversation as best I could. And yet this girl thought about it for a bit, and slowly opened her mouth. West. West? Hawaii Island is famous for them. Hawaii Island? Hey, wait. How far away do you think that is? I just started driving a car, so I wasn't even halfway proficient yet. I was probably about 700 kilometers away, and even on the tollways, I couldn't say how long it would take. And in the first place, I didn't think we had enough money for that. If we went by normal highways instead of the tollways, there was no way we'd have enough for gas. Hey, don't say stuff like that. You can't mean to go there, right? Who said I wanted to go? What? I just answered your question. And just like that, she went back to staring at the flowers across the windshield. The thick haze of the cold rain streaming on glass. She kept gazing and gazing and gazing. I didn't particularly want to go there either, but I had nowhere else that I wanted to go. And then the music stopped. Well, that was Narcissu. I hope you liked it. This is the first game I've ever played on my channel. And I might play chapter 3 later. So, hope you can stay tuned for chapter 3. that was pretty fun. I'm getting interested in that, and so yeah, hope you like this. Hope you like this video. This is the first video I've ever done, so peace out.